Hello and welcome to the Free Outside Show. This is going to be a solo show because I have had a bunch of guests on, but I've also been getting a lot of questions regarding some of the things that I've talked to guests about, some of the things that I've talked on here, some of the science. So I thought I would dive into them because there's a lot of questions. Probably the biggest one is on heat training. So let's get into the Free Outside Show. I'm your host, Jeff Garmeyer. 5-star reviews on Apple, Spotify really help the show grow. And share it if you put it out on social media. That's cool too. Okay. Let's get into it. All right. I have here 8 questions that are pretty common that I've gotten at least more than once from people, and I'm just going to go through them. This is what I think as a running coach, someone who likes to dive into the research and look around at what other people are doing and kind of decide for myself if that's working. And I've also coached over 100 athletes to, I guess, probably over 100 ultras. I don't know. I haven't done the math on that. Anyways, here we go. Okay, the first one, let's get into heat training. So a big question is, how long should you heat train? And like, how do you know when to get out? What's substantial? So a lot of the research shows that 2 sessions a week, or like every 3 days, every 3 to 4 days is going to be substantial for maintaining and even building some. But the bigger question that I've been getting is, how long should I stay in the sauna, let's say, or the hot tub? Passive heat training is a little different. So that's more where you're wearing a heat suit or something that keeps your body temperature warmer while you're exercising. But let's focus on passive heat for this. So the big thing is your body's going to know when it needs to get out. So the point of heat training is to raise your core temperature, which will increase your blood volume, which increases the ability to pump oxygen to your body because your red blood cell count is going to be higher, increases your blood plasma. And this is done by raising the core temperature. And your body will know when the core temperature is getting uncomfortably high. When you're in the sauna, you know that feeling when you need to get out. This is why I like to do and tell athletes to do it by feel. Like, you know, when you've been in there long enough, whether it's 8 minutes one day, 15 minutes a different day, you don't want to push past that point where you're in the red, because then that's added training stress on your body and you're not going to perform as well throughout the week. The point of this is to raise the core temperature, but not where it's dangerous, and then bring it back down. Sometimes if I do heat training after a workout, I will use just my wrist heart rate data on my watch just to make sure my heart rate doesn't get too high. I would say you probably don't want it to get up into the 130s, especially after a workout. And so a couple protocols after that are when you do decide it's time to get out. And also another question I got is, can you drink water while you're in the sauna? I would say yes. If you want to constrict in any way, maybe it's take a sip or a big gulp, or drink like as much water as you need to drink every 3 or 4 minutes, and then let your body sit with that for a little bit, because drinking cold water will cool the core temperature down a little bit, because cold on hot, you know how that works. But a way you can do it is, let's say after 11 minutes, time to get out. You can get out, you can cool down by just sitting in the air. I don't think a cold plunge right after a sauna is good. It negates that core temperature too quickly. But once you cool down, feel refreshed, you can do a shorter session, which will be shorter because your core temperature is still elevated after that, and then call it. And that's substantial enough for one heat training session. So you can drink water in the sauna when you're there. There's studies that show no reduced impact. You can do multiple sessions, but I would go by feel rather than time. So that's the heat training answer that I've actually gotten a lot of. There's more science, I think, coming out on this. It's coming out all the time, obviously, because science rules. But I would just say to be careful and not push yourself past the point where it's going to impact future workouts. You never want heat training to have an impact on the next day. All right, next one, ketones. These, I'm trying to get an expert on to talk about this. It's kind of hard to find a study or people who aren't funded by the ketone companies because they have a lot of money. So ketones, it does seem like there's an impact, probably some impact on recovery. So taking it right after like a really long, hard effort or a long run maybe has some benefits. I've found it's pretty good cognitively, like at night during 100 when you're tired, or when you're like hallucinating during a 200. I've found them to work really good at bringing your mind back to normal. But other than that, and taking them during workouts and during races, I don't know. So I don't have a good answer on this. I'm trying to dive deeper. I don't know everything, but that's kind of what I do know. They're also really expensive. If you have unlimited money, maybe something to try out, but for the money, I think you can put it into better things than ketones would be my take, at least until I'm sponsored by a ketone company. No, I want to have an expert on so we can actually talk about the physiological impacts of ketones and how they manifest and work during hard exercise. They are prevalent in cycling, but with running and jostling of the stomach and the bouncing of the running form, it's a little bit different. And just how cycling is often in stage races where it's like 5, 6 hour chunk and then recovery till the next day when you do it again. That's a little different than running events where it's usually one off one day. That's how it goes. And recovery, you want it to be there, but you're not depending on your body for performance the next day. So big question mark on ketones, and just telling you kind of how I think of it. Okay, another one, let's get into nutrition. So this is a big one I've been going through with a few athletes. Of nutrition is really subjective to each individual. Like different things are going to work from you between textures, taste, salty, sweet, that type of thing. So I like to go over nutrition plans with people, and I like to think of the 5 categories. I got this from CTS. They have a good article out there. If I remember, I'll put it in the show notes. But how I think of nutrition is you want something salty, you want something sweet, you want something manufactured like a gel, you want something liquid, and then you want a different texture. Maybe that's like gummy snack or sour, like not Swedish Fish, Sour Patch Kids or something like that. So those 5 categories are the options that you should have, so you can change between them, and you want to know that all of them work. You want to use all of them in training. So maybe Oreos are your sweet thing that works for you. You have some of those with you, especially for like a 100 miler. And then something salty or crunchy like crackers. I like Goldfish crackers or Dots pretzels. That's my salty thing. And then manufactured, a gel. There's a million different kinds. Check out the feed. They have all of them. You can order one-off things from the feed too, which is good. I just got a bunch of them to try for Cocodone in my big year. And then liquid calories. These are also interesting because I think you can get the added benefit of getting your sodium in through liquid calories. I use the Scratch hydration mix. Other people can use the super high carb, which gets most of your calories, but my stomach doesn't like getting that many calories from liquid stuff. So that's your liquid. And then of course, Sour Patch Kids, gummy bears, something like that. That's like a different type of texture to change things up. And so you have these 5, you have your 5 groups, your 5 foods that fit in those. And then I like to have a substitute for each. So instead of Oreos, maybe it's like some cookies or something like that. And then instead of Goldfish, maybe it's Dots pretzels. Instead of Precision gels, maybe it's Honey Stinger. That's mine. And then instead of Scratch hydration mix, maybe it's Gnarly or some other drink mix, something that's going to have a different flavor. You could even have Scratch lemon lime and Scratch fruit punch, just something to substitute in when you're tired. And this is really important because your crew can just directly change in when you're tired of something. Like, I'm tired of this taste of Scratch, so we're going to move to fruit punch from now on. So something that can change it up. And so it's mindless. You already know it works. You already have your list. My list usually has 15 things on it. It has the 5 primary, the 5 substitutes, and then it has 5 things that I like at aid stations. And my aid stations might be bagels. It might be like a hummus wrap. It might be a protein shake. It might be a sandwich. It could be anything that's more of an aid station thing. But then once you have this list, that's what you stick to for your race. And ideally, it's long enough with enough things that have worked in training that you never have to go outside that and guess what's going to work. So it's really good. It takes the guesswork out of it, makes crewing way easier. And then you just have this plan that you can stick to rather than getting to an aid station, staring at the food on the table and wondering what to get. That'll cost you time, and you don't know if it's going to work for your stomach. It just gives you a lot more confidence. All right. The next question on nutrition that I've gotten a lot is when to take it. So especially in training. So like, should I take it in a 45-minute run? Should I take it on a 90-minute run. So I like to say 60 minutes is a good time to take nutrition and experiment. Are you trying a new gel? Do you want to try something else out? Do you want to see what works? Are you playing with taking in more carbs? 60 to 90 minutes is that magic duration where you can test it out and the consequences aren't so big. So you can try if caffeine or something works or things like that, where 90 minutes especially will be enough time to tell if that energy is remaining constant near the end of the run, how it's feeling. 60 minutes, your body has enough glycogen stores that you don't need to take in calories, but it can be good practice. Also, speed sessions, you don't need them probably, because I'm assuming a lot of speed sessions are 60 minutes or less, but it's a good chance to train the gut even more because you're putting it through a higher intensity than a race. So it's just like, training faster when the race is going to be slower. It's the same thing with nutrition. You're putting it in, having your body process it when you're expecting more from your body than the actual race. So that can be a really good way to train it. So my number is 60 minutes or less. You can take it. It's not a huge deal. It can help in recovery, especially if you take it near the end of the run. But if you don't, you can just take protein shake or some carbs right at the end. And that studies have shown that helps in recovery. 90 minutes, that's where I tell everyone they should take some sort of nutrition on that run. And then beyond that, the longer runs, that's when you should be working and dialing in those 5 key food groups, those 5 key foods that work for you and the substitutes. So use those longer runs for more than just the miles. Those middle distance runs, good for experimenting. The shorter ones usually don't need to bring nutrition. All right, the next topic on here. Okay, I've gotten a lot of athletes over the years talk about, well, I had a bad workout, didn't go well because of all these things. And I just want to say, this is why in trail running, we train a lot with rate of perceived exertion. So it's called RPE, and it's basically gauging how you feel, how you're doing, what effort level you're putting out on that day. It's just like in a race at mile 90, rate of perceived exertion is going to feel really hard for the same 9 minutes per mile that it did at mile 1. That's why we're going by feel. That's the whole concept of this. Going up a hill, that perceived exertion is going to balance itself out against the terrain, the elevation, the vert, the altitude, the heat, all those things. So you're going by feel. It's okay if a workout's paces are not that good. That's the whole point. Not every workout's going to be your best. I say this all the time. You only get one best. When you get to the end of your life, you go through all the things you did, and in each category, you only got one best. You only have one best workout for your whole life. Nothing else can be the best. You can only get one. So you can't expect it every time. You're going to give it your honest best effort within that perceived exertion range. And maybe it's not your best paces. That's okay. You don't need them to be. So I would just say, hone in on yourself and what your perceived exertion is during that workout and push yourself to the best you can on that day. But you're not worried about your best over the course of your life in each workout, especially in a training plan. And if you have a coach, there may be lagging fatigue from a past workout or something like that. And these are things to talk to them about if there's other factors, or sleep can be a big thing in recovery. But I would just caution and say, hone in on that effort level when you're in the workout, and then be content that you got the workout in. That's the main goal of these things. Every day builds on itself and you become a better athlete at the end of it because of the work you put in and done these workouts day after day. This flows right into the next thing that I think is one of the bigger issues out there that probably need to discuss. And I used to call it the David Goggins effect, where it comes across that everyone is running so hard, so fast, so good all the time. And you're wondering, should you be doing the same thing? Should all your runs be a tempo run? Should you be doing more speed workouts? And this is the base issue, because they should not. David Roach is a coach, but of course the most viral content that he's putting out right now, training for Western states and doing this thing in conjunction with the feed, is all his speed workouts. And he's doing easy miles and cross training. And if you dig into his Strava, you can see that. But what you're seeing continually hit your feed are the faster things. And you're thinking he's running fast all the time. He's doing all these mile repeats. But really, that's probably only 20% of the work he's doing. So just be content with your training plan. And if you don't have one, consider a coach, or just look up. There's a bunch of good info on training plans and training theory online, and build your own and stick to it. That matters more than what your friend's doing, what you're seeing on Strava, because it's those continual stacking and that progression of like slight overload, recovery, slight overload. That's how you get better through those workouts. You push yourself hard, then you have maybe a recovery day or a rest day, and then that builds so you're ready for the next workout. And if every day is harder and harder, that's where you get burnout, likely injury, or even worse, where, you know, you're out of the sport or something. We've seen that time and time again from some of the top athletes. When they get some success, they push really hard, seeing competitors motivated by competition, that they always got to be better and doing more. But that actually means that you perform worse. So be confident with what you're doing, have your conviction in your own training plan, your own schedule, what you're doing, and stick to that. It's not a big deal what everyone else is doing, because you just need to trust your own process. And like a little tip, if you are setting up your own thing, I really like the style of one rest day a week, one cross training day a week, which I'll get into in a second, one workout day a week, a couple easy days with strides, and then one longer day. That is the perfect schedule for anyone out there. And you can even throw in a second rest day. I've done the 5 and 2 method before, where it's 5 days of running, 5 days effort, and 2 rest days. I've felt really good doing that. I do that going in tapers and stuff too. So just have your conviction, stick to it, and don't worry about what other people are doing. I know it's really hard because social media and what's happening out there and how people are performing is out there, and we're all competitive and want to do well. So we think we have to do more. But in running and training, that doesn't work. It can just lead to bad things. Trust me. Okay, cross training. This is kind of what I just talked about with putting in cross training in your schedule. A lot of people are doing it. Cycling's big, whether it's indoors or outdoors. Even hiking. So the point of cross training is to reduce impact. So running is high impact. You're getting double your weight coming back at you when you're pushing off the ground with every step. If you're doing that 180 times a minute, which would be your cadence, that's a lot of energy you're pushing through your legs and up through your feet. So the benefit of cross training is it's not a rest day, but it's still working your endurance system by raising your heart rate. So I like to hit maybe zone 2, which if you're just thinking about it, that's where you could have a conversation, like a couple sentences at a time or so, but you'd maybe need to gasp for breath after that or something like that. You're not pushing into the tempo zone where your heartbeat's racing, it's getting really hard, but you're getting a good sustained effort. Biking's really good. Arc trainer's really good. Elliptical can be really good. Even hiking is good because it's going to be lower impact because you're not doing the pounding of running where you're off the ground. Literally, when you run, your feet are both off the ground for a portion of each stride. So just think about that. If you can lower the impact for one of your workouts per week, maybe an hour in one of those, that's only going to benefit the recovery. And in recovery is where you get the gains of what you put all the work in to get all that hard work from the workouts. You need that to sink in so that you can maximize that performance the next week and the week after that. So cross training is just a really good tool, and think about it as an activity where it lowers performance. I also have a couple athletes who really like swimming. I don't know if they like it. Does anyone really like swimming? But that's like the lowest impact it can be, but also really hard. So that's really good. Let's go back to heat training really quick. So I've gotten some cold plunge questions. I've gone over this a little bit before, but let's dive right back into it. So cold plunging, it blunts training adaptations. So it's okay to do cold plunging, especially maybe the day before a hard workout where you want to get anything out of your legs that was in there of like fatigue or lactate or something to be ready to push hard the next day. But after strength workout, which I like to do twice a week or push athletes to do twice a week, or after a speed workout or a long run, I would avoid cold plunging for about 48 hours because it's going to blunt training adaptation, which means it's just going to jump some of the stages and not rebuild the muscles the same way that if you were letting soreness, fatigue sink in. And that's why strategic rest days are really good too, because it just takes out that factor of like, I'm not pushing through this. I don't need to worry that my legs are a little tired because they're healing by getting 2 nights of sleep between workouts. All right, let's see. Should we be doing more speed is a question I get all the time. I kind of hit on this with the conviction and training schedule, but with seeing people online. So I'd say maximum 4 days between speed workouts is going to be solid because it's going to give your body enough time to recover and absorb those training adaptations between the workouts, which is really the key of running and improving. You want to get better. So doing a hard workout every day, it's going to have blunted effects than if you're really valuing that workout and doing a good job every 4 days. All right, what else was I going to talk about here? We've pretty much hit all the main things. I would just say one of the biggest things in scheduling is training stress isn't like in a silo on its own. There's also life stress that seeps in, and sleep schedule and sleepability, I guess, is a really big one too. So if you have a bunch of life stress, aren't sleeping well, and can't perform a workout, a long run to the level that you want, and it's going to especially impact psychologically, like take some of that confidence that's really hard earned and hard to get in running. It's okay to move things around. And especially if you have a good coach, they're going to be willing and receptive of this. Of course, sometimes you're going to want to push through, get out on that run. Something's better than nothing. A 10-minute run, I always tell athletes, is better than no run. But if you can't value that hard workout, you should push that. You have a whole week to work with. You can put that on the day where you can value it the most. And one athlete who has a particularly busy schedule that I coach, what we do is we just talk about like what's one day where running could be the priority. And that's where we want to get, depending on the training cycle, either a long run or a speed workout in that day so that it can be the most beneficial. Because with a good workout comes not only a good workout, training adaptations, but also comes this confidence and psychological impact of, okay, I'm good at running. I feel good about my race. I feel good about my calendar that I have. I feel like I can do it. Versus if you force out a bad workout or a bad long run, you're going to get those negative psychological impacts that are even worse and detrimental, where you show up at the start line and you're wondering if I can do it. You should show up at the start line being excited to run, a little nervous, and also excited to push yourself, not doubting if you can actually do it. I mean, you are proving it to yourself, but you should feel pretty good about the plan you have in place. That's why I talked about nutrition on here as well. Yeah, that is most of the big questions that I've got in the last probably 3 weeks or so. And I just wanted to do a quick podcast on kind of what they are, what you can do to alleviate some of those worries, and then also hitting on that everything comes back to confidence and that ability. You signed up for these things because you think there's a chance you can do them, and you should show up to race day thinking there's still a chance you can do them. So set big goals, go after them, keep that confidence. I guess the last thing I want to hit on is it's the cold time of year, so gear is pretty important, and especially if you're doing workouts outside that are faster, the key thing is to keep your legs warm. So I always tell athletes wear pants or tights just so that the muscles, legs, joints are warmer, and take a longer warm up before you're expecting any intensity from them. And here's the ad plug. This podcast is sponsored by Jonji. I'm wearing Jonji pants right now. I'm actually about to go on my own speed workout, and it'll be a longer warm up in pants just so that everything is warm. And even when it feels like I'm a little hot during the workout, that's okay. That's the point of running. It's going to raise your core temperature no matter what temperature you're doing it in, but you don't want to be cold. You don't want those legs cold. That increases injury risk, muscle tightness, chance of strains, things like that. So Jonji.com, they have fleece lined tights that are really good. That's what I'm going to wear on this workout. And they have pockets. They can hold everything. So you can fit a gel. I can fit my inhaler. I can fit my phone in them. So Jonji.com, tell them we sent you. And that's all the advice and the questions that I'm going to go over in this one, but feel free to shoot me anything you want me to go into, dive into deeper. I'm really trying to get an expert scientist who is unaffiliated with a ketone brand to come on here, because it is undoubtedly an area that I'm lacking. I also just had a running gait analysis with my PT because I have a couple places. Well, I'm just really inflexible, and it was like, should I be gaining strength, working on flexibility in some of these areas? And the short answer was yes. So I'm going to be working on some hamstring flexibility and getting those babies firing for the upcoming year. So yeah, we love 5-star ratings, reviews. That really helps. Check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe over there. That really helps. And with that, I think I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, the Substack, freeoutside.substack.com. And you can see what I put out every week across all the channels, because sometimes it blows my mind that I'm able to do all these things. All right. Thank you guys for listening. A little shorter episode today, but I hope this was useful. And shoot me an email if you want me to go deeper on any of this stuff. And I definitely can, because I like diving into the weeds and learn it myself, make myself a better coach and athlete. All right, guys, stay elite, my friends.